daughter Bronte worries about our shared existence before she sleeps. Sleep feels like leaving, and she doesn't like to leave, and she's afraid of being left behind. Her dad and I have developed routines to help her settle into rest. She and Riley have a talk. He lies next to her, and they chat about the day. My ability to chat syncs with the sun, so I read her stories, but sometimes we have a talk too. When she was 4, I read Bronte a bedtime story, kissed her cheek, and turned off the light. She started to cry in the dark. Mom, is heaven as big as Asia? Asia is the biggest continent, and if heaven is as big as Asia, I'll never find you. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't spoken to her much about heaven or continents, but she'd learned about them and mapped the mystery of one onto the known magnitude of the other. We talked for hours until she felt assured that no measure of space-time could keep me from finding her. Bronte turned 7 last month. As she has grown, her capacity for existential worry has grown too. A few nights before her birthday, I read her a book, turned off the light, and said goodnight. I'd reached her bedroom doorway when her voice came through the dark. Mom, have you heard of glitches? Sure, I said. A glitch is kind of like a hiccup in a system. It's often not a big enough problem to be noticed all the time or noticed by everyone. Why? Did you know that people say they see glitches in real life? And that proves we are in a video game. What if I am not real? She started to cry. What if you are not real? I didn't know what to say. I hadn't ever talked to her about the simulation argument, the techno-optimist creation myth popularized by Nick Bostrom. Nick Bostrom is one of Elon Musk's favorite philosophers. Sam Altman is a fan. So is Mark Anderson. And whether these men really believe in the simulation myth doesn't really matter, because they're using the myth's doctrine of power to justify real harm. So I think you and I need to know the story that they're telling. The simulation myth goes like this. Humans will go extinct unless they develop technology that turns them into a post-human species. Technological innovation is simply a matter of turning energy into compute power. The entire universe is made of energy, so humans can develop the technology that turns them into a post-human species. A post-human species with enough compute power could and would create a significant number of conscious simulations of their evolutionary past. The people living in those simulations would not know they were in a computer program. They would develop until they became post-human simulations who could run conscious simulations of their own. This would go on in a technologist nesting doll situation. With so many simulated realities, and perhaps just one base reality, Musk and his friends and frenemies argue that we are nearly certainly in a simulated reality programmed by a higher intelligence. And that higher intelligence is also in a simulated reality programmed by a higher intelligence, and so on. Our universe is made of energy because it is made of compute power. Everything we observe about matter and motion is generated by computer code. A few people on Earth are main characters controlled by players from other simulations, but mostly people are non-player characters driven by AI scripts that use algorithms to process information. The simulation myth teaches that my daughter was programmed to weep about the possibility of her mother's unrealness. Bostrom's simulation creation myth and the Silicon Valley funded work that followed helped lay the foundation for the long-termism, effective altruism, and AI hype movements. The fact that these are all essentially defenses of systemic inequality is a feature, not a bug. His myth requires humanity to be categorized by character class. White men, of course, tend to fall in the superior character classes. Bostrom has claimed that different races have different IQs twice, most recently in 2023. The powerful men who preach Bostrom's myth are overtly misogynistic, yammering on about the need for more masculine energy and glorifying documented abuser and alleged human trafficker Andrew Tate. Musk, Altman, and Andreessen titter about the simulation myth on X, Joe Rogan, and now at Mar-a-Lago. And in their telling they are the main characters, almost everyone else is a script. There is no limit to what you can justify when humanity exists to support your character arc. But you don't have to engage with a tech lord to run into the simulation myth. Its ideas are distributed on the platforms owned by the people most likely to benefit from their spread. Language associated with simulation myth litters our online discourse, popping up in TikTok videos about glitches and posts about NPCs. My daughter Bronte doesn't spend any time online, not even on tech-enabled toys, but she lives in society. She heard about glitches on the playground, and then she mapped her worry onto its distortions. I moved towards her voice in the dark, climbed into the bed next to her, and held her hand. Okay, I said, I think you are talking about a thing some people call the simulation argument. The simulation argument is just a story that someone made up. And the story basically says, it would be really weird if we were in a huge version of Animal Crossing. And that would be weird. And so it's kind of fun to think about, right? People who say they see glitches are just playing pretend while thinking about that story. But we are not in a big version of Animal Crossing. We are in real life. I am real and you are real. I squeezed her hand and she squeezed back hard. But how do you know, Mom? What if I am controlled by someone else? There is no way to know if we are real. All right, I said. Let's think about engineering club. You and I learned that engineers use science, math, and materials to design and build things. Engineers think of problems and say, how can I use engineering to solve that? You say that all the time, right? And this semester, your problem was, my teacher told me to build a cool mini golf hole. You solved that problem with engineering. You used math and science to create a design. And then you built that design with a lot of different materials, like cardboard, hot glue, and particle board. Those materials came together to make something bigger, your mini golf hole. And it was pretty cool, right? Well, people are pretty good at thinking of problems that can be solved with engineering. Video games like Animal Crossing are engineered. But there are lots of things that can't be engineered, like engineering is used to design and build roller coasters. And roller coasters can be built in the real world, like at Disneyland, and in virtual worlds, like Animal Crossing. But engineering can't design or build a computer program that can go on the roller coaster and feel those physical forces. You know that whooshy feeling you get on roller coasters? That happens because every part of your body is accelerating at the same time, but separately. All those parts are moving all around each other, swish swash. Your cells, your blood, the stuff in your tummy, your organs, everything. A computer program can't experience those physical forces, but you can, and you love it, so you are not in a computer game. I was feeling pretty proud of myself, except for almost immediately she said, but someone could push a button that made me think I felt all that when I really didn't. I said, well, computer programs can't think, but I take your point. Let me wonder about how to help you understand this, okay? She let us lay there quietly while I tried to think about what she was really asking. She doesn't know about billionaires or memes or capital or compute power. So she wasn't really asking about the simulation myth. Instead, her question was something closer to, what if we and everything around us are always being created by something else? And that is a very old question. Ancient philosophers asked if they existed in a dream that was always being dreamed, or a book that was always being written, a painting that was always being painted. And these questions help them and us contemplate the mystery of existence. And at first, it might seem like the simulation myth is like those questions, but that's a category error. The simulation myth is not a question. It is an invalid proof designed to diminish and dismiss reality. I didn't have to disprove the simulation myth. I just had to help her see through it so she could encounter the real mystery at the center of her very good question. Luckily, seeing through the simulation myth is very easy because it is riddled with logical errors. Can I share one of my favorites? It goes like this. In a simulation, closer observation of the system would reveal more simplicity. You'd see the metaphorical zeros and ones. But in our reality, closer observation reveals what theoretical physicist Frank Wilczek calls the hidden complexity of the universe. The more we can see, the more there is to see. When we discovered the atom, many believed we'd found what Michael Moyer of Quantum Magazine calls the hidden structure underlying all the things we see, steel and stars, frogs and fire, could all be described in the terms of fundamental, indistinguishable building blocks. Then we looked closer. Atoms themselves have a hidden structure. Electrons orbit a nuclear core, which can be further broken down into smaller structures and substructures, protons and neutrons, quarks and gluons. And yes, you guessed it, these hidden structures also have a complex hidden structure that we know is there, but we cannot observe. The hidden structure of the universe is in the ether, so to speak. So it makes no sense for a simulation to waste compute power on hidden structures. What kind of compute power dependent post-human programmer would do that? Especially if that power is needed to run simulations within simulations within simulations. Those ordained by the simulation myth understand that quantum physics exposes the hollowness of their power structure, and they take different approaches to dismissing the quantum realm. Sam Altman once posited that quantum mechanics might just be a bug in the simulation program, which is definitely the kind of top-notch thinking I expect from him. So I don't know. One point to the maybe Sam Altman, at least, is an AI script camp. Anyways, my first grader is pretty good at abstract thinking, but a discussion about theoretical physics is still very much beyond her. And it's pretty much still beyond me too. That's okay though, because there's another kind of hidden structure that the simulation myth can't compute, and it's one she knows very well. So I said, okay, Bronte, let's think about love. Engineers create solutions. Their designs begin with an end. Your mini golf hole was built to get the golf ball to a hole, right? So the hole was the end all your engineering worked toward. But what does love solve? What is its end? Like, sure, a mother loves her child, and so she protects her child. That could be the problem and the solution, I suppose. But we also keep loving people who have died. What is the point of that? Why do I keep loving my dad even though he can't tuck me in? He hasn't been able to tuck me in for almost 11 years. We don't know. What we do know is that we experience love. And we do know that love can't be engineered in the real world or in the virtual world. And we know that because people have tried throughout history, but it doesn't work. And that kind of makes a lot of sense. Love can't be broken down into smaller parts the way your mini golf hole could be broken down into cardboard, hot glue, and particle board. Love gets more complex the closer you look at it. For now, let's think of complexity as bigger. Love gets bigger the deeper you look into it. So, Bronte, let's think of Animal Crossing again. An Animal Crossing character can be programmed to display a word bubble that says, "I love you." But that character can't feel love, and so it can't actually express love. That word bubble just represents the idea of love, just like the trees in Animal Crossing represent the idea of trees. So we know that we are not in a video game because we can feel love and we can express love. And since I love you and of course here, she interrupted. But Mom, maybe someone is playing the video game and pushing buttons that make you say you love me. I squeezed her hand again. And then I let it go. I held my hands in a circle right above both our faces. I said, "Hey, You didn't let me finish. I love you, and you love me. Think about your love for me. Does it feel engineered? Is it made of simpler things that aren't love? Or does it get bigger? My hands moved away from one another, expanding to hold a bigger and bigger circle. Does love get bigger the more that you think about it? I held her hand again, and I let us lay there while she tried to think about what I was asking. She stared up into the dark, her eyes wide, trying to gather light that neither of us could see. And then her body relaxed right before she spoke. It gets bigger. That is weird, Mom. Why is love weird? Love is weird, I said. And I don't know why. It's a mystery.